During the intense conflict that has marked Europe's recent history, the famous Azov Brigade has emerged as a crucial player in Ukraine's defense. As the war escalated, the brigade not only stood out for its bravery, but also for its strategic prowess on the battlefield. Its role in destroying hidden Russian underground bunkers in the Kiev region underscored its operational capability and unwavering commitment to the Ukrainian cause. Such operations showcase not only the firepower and tactical effectiveness of Ukrainian forces, but also sent a clear message to Russian troops. Ukrainian resistance is fierce and determined to fight for its territory. On a pivotal day, the Azov Brigade executed a series of coordinated attacks that resulted in the elimination of several Russian units from their fortified positions. A video recorded by a brigade soldier went viral on social media, depicting the brutality of the conflict and the tenacity of Ukrainian forces. In this video, it was evident how, despite being outnumbered and equipped with inferior gear, Ukrainian troops managed to push back Russian soldiers. The footage captured the essence of the struggle, a clash between determination and oppression, between the fight for freedom and invasion. The situation on the battlefield was extremely complex. The Russian forces, despite being better equipped and having greater resources, faced difficult terrain and formidable resistance. The Azov Brigade continued to fight tirelessly, even under constant bombardment, while attempting to regain control of Russian-held positions. The determination of these soldiers became legendary. Their courage and commitment inspired other Ukrainian fighters to join the cause. As the fighting intensified, the morale of Russian troops began to wane, while the resolve of Ukrainian forces grew stronger. Throughout the war, the conflict has not only been waged on the battlefield, but also in the hearts and minds of Ukrainian citizens. The Azov Brigade has acted as a symbol of resistance, showing the world that, despite adversity, Ukraine will not surrender. Victories on the battlefield were followed by a renewed spirit of unity among the civilian population, who rallied in support of their armed forces. Stories of heroes, sacrifice, and struggle became part of the national narrative, uniting the nation in its desire to free itself from oppression. As Ukrainian forces advanced in the region, significant strides were made in capturing strategic territories. The Azov Brigade, along with other units, conducted bold operations that resulted in the capture of key areas that had been under Russian control. This advance not only demonstrated the effectiveness of the Ukrainian strategy, but also signified a psychological defeat for occupying forces. Russian soldiers, who once felt invincible, began to question their ability to maintain control over the occupied territories. In the Pokrovsky front, pressure mounted on Russian forces. Ukrainian troops, coordinated and resolute, managed to halt the enemy's advance, thwarting Russian attempts to consolidate their hold on the region. The defense of Pokrovsky became a symbol of Ukrainian resilience, and President Volodymyr Zelensky emphasized the importance of eliminating as many Russian troops as possible along this front line. Victories in this area reinforced the morale of soldiers and the civilian population, proving that, despite difficult circumstances, the Ukrainian people were determined to fight. However, the conflict extended beyond armed struggle. It also affected the daily lives of civilians in occupied regions. Feelings of insecurity and distrust began to emerge among Russian soldiers in areas such as Zaporizhia and Kherson, where Ukrainian attacks surprised many. As Russian soldiers faced increasing casualties and difficulties in their operations, the perception of the war began to shift, not only among combatants, but also within the local population. Cities under Russian control started to show signs of social and economic decay. Daily life was disrupted, and many displaced Ukrainians were forced to leave their homes. The Russian occupation brought a series of problems, including the nationalization of properties, leaving many residents without housing. Despair and resentment began to grow among those who once enjoyed a peaceful life. Stories of abuse and violence escalated, and war crimes became a terrifying reality in the occupied areas. In this context, the humanitarian situation deteriorated rapidly. The lack of resources and basic services created a crisis environment in which the civilian population suffered immensely. Residents of occupied cities like Donetsk and Luhansk faced deplorable conditions. Many found themselves without access to clean water, electricity, or medical services, leading to an increase in illness and desperation. The conflict has also had a significant impact on the psyche of the population. Testimonies from residents who have lived under occupation speak of a deep sense of loss and betrayal. Many feel that their lives have been shattered by the actions of an enemy attempting to impose its will through fear and violence. Stories of separated families, missing friends, and destroyed communities became part of the war narrative, creating an atmosphere of anguish and sorrow that will linger long after the fighting ceases. As the war progresses, Ukraine's struggle transforms into a narrative of resilience. The Azov Brigade and other defense groups have come to symbolize the indomitable spirit of a people unwilling to be crushed by oppression. Resistance is not only military but also cultural and emotional. In each victory, in every sacrifice, Ukrainians find the strength to move forward. Their fight for their homeland is also a fight for their identity, history, and future. The international community watches closely as this conflict unfolds. Ukrainian resistance has garnered widespread global support, with nations and organizations uniting to provide humanitarian assistance, weaponry, and resources to Ukraine's armed forces. This backing has been crucial in maintaining the morale of troops and civilians, showing that the fight for freedom is not isolated and that the world is willing to support those defending their sovereignty. However, the path to peace is long and challenging. The wounds of war run deep, and the consequences of occupation will linger for generations. As Ukrainians strive to rebuild their lives, they also face the monumental task of healing the divisions and traumas left by the war. The story of the Azov Brigade and Ukrainian resistance will become a legacy of courage and sacrifice, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, the light of hope can prevail. Ukraine's struggle is not merely a battle for territory, but a fight for human dignity and self-determination. As the conflict continues, history is still being written, and each day brings new opportunities for resistance and hope. In this context, the fighting spirit of the Azov Brigade and the Ukrainian people stands as a beacon illuminating the way toward a future where peace and justice may finally prevail.